The anime begins by showing a glimpse into the myth of the destruction legend. The world is under attack by the monstrous being known as Anthrasax, a creature born from the corrupt and malevolent heart of a human. Despite their best efforts, humanity was unable to defeat the powerful Anthrasax, until a shining pillar of light descended from the sky, revealing a winged dragon to confront the beast. The dragon stood tall, a symbol of hope in a dark and desperate time, ready to do battle with the evil Anthrasax and protect the world from destruction. This epic struggle sets the stage for a thrilling adventure, as the heroes of the story must come together to prevent the destruction legend from becoming a reality. The final showdown between the dragon and Anthrasax was a long and grueling battle, with a heavy toll on humanity. Despite the dragon's victory, millions of people lost their lives, and the aftermath of the battle saw a sharp decline in civilization. Countless countries were destroyed, leaving only a few new kingdoms to rise from the ashes. 400 years have passed since the epic battle between the dragon and Anthrasax. In this present time, a man named Osborn leads an army of monsters to invade a kingdom known as Metallica. Osborn cunningly chooses to attack while the king, the knights, and the high priests were away, leaving only the soldiers and the princess of Metallica Kingdom, Sheila Tel Metallicana, to defend the kingdom. Sheila, along with a few soldiers and ministers, sought refuge in a cathedral. Among them were also two children, Yoko Tia Noto and Lucien Renlen. Yoko, the daughter of the renowned priest Soto Gio Noto, was among the groups seeking safety in the cathedral. As the situation inside the cathedral becomes increasingly dire, Yoko remembers a spell taught to her by her father, which could release a powerful entity or creature in dire circumstances. However, Soto had warned Yoko that the spell should only be used to save the kingdom. To Yoko's surprise, the entity referred to by her father was sealed inside Lucien's body, and the soul of a legendary wizard known as Dark Schneider lay dormant within him. When the state in the cathedral becomes more intense, Sheila comes to see Yoko. Sheila tells Yoko that Soto has confided in her about the spell that Yoko had learned, and urges Yoko to use it to save the kingdom. However, Yoko hesitates, feeling embarrassed and unsure of her abilities. But before Yoko can make a decision, Osborn and his rebel forces manage to break into the cathedral with the intention of killing Sheila. To their dismay, they found out 3 ministers had betrayed them and informed Osborn in exchange for a fortune, but Osborn killed them mercilessly. Knowing that the enemy had breached their sanctuary, Yoko, who had previously refused to perform the ritual to revive Dark Schneider, began to reconsider her decision. Yoko had been hesitant to perform the ritual as it required her to kiss Lucien as a condition of the spell. However, as a monster attacked the two of them and Lucien was injured and unconscious, Yoko realized the gravity of the situation and reluctantly performed the ritual. Lucien's body released a huge black aura that transformed him into an adult man, the true form of Dark Schneider. Upon rising, Schneider was furious and searched for the great priest who had sealed his soul into the body of a newborn baby boy. Osborn, seeing Schneider's emergence, ordered 2 giant monsters to attack him. To Osborn's surprise, Schneider easily defeated the monsters with ancient magic. Osborn, who did not know Schneider's true identity, was shocked at his immense power. On the other hand, Sheila was disappointed to find out that the one who had risen was Schneider. She remembered the events that occurred 15 years ago, when Schneider attacked her kingdom and killed her elder brother and some of the best knights of Metallica Kingdom. In the end, Schneider also died as a result of the Great War. Although he had been reincarnated as Dark Schneider, he still retained some memories and traits of Lucien, making him obedient to the words of Yoko, who had always helped him. Hearing people mention the name of the legendary Dark Schneider, Osborn became suspicious and accused Lucien of being a fraud. Osborn ordered his army of monsters to attack Schneider, but Schneider easily defeated the monsters that attacked him with just one strike. Osborn, who fought alone, cast a powerful bolt of magic against Schneider, burning his body. Not only that, Osborn then mercilessly beat Schneider's body, which seemed unable to move. Surprisingly, Schneider was able to rise again within a short time and looked so angry that he unleashed a legendary fire magic and burned Osborn's body to death. He emerged victorious in his battle against Osborn and his army. As he stood victorious, Sheila approached him to offer her gratitude. But to her surprise, Schneider coldly ignored her and instead sought out Yoko. He desired to hear her words of thanks and nothing else. With a heavy heart, Sheila watched as Schneider left the palace, leaving her behind. Yoko, unable to let Schneider go, chased after him. She caught up to him and asked where he was headed. Schneider's answer was filled with a burning desire for revenge. He planned to find Yoko's father and start a war, eliminating anyone who dared to stand in his way. Yoko's heart sank as she listened to Schneider's words. She knew she had to stop him, but Schneider was not angry and he looked very much like Yoko, so he kissed Yoko. Unexpectedly, it makes Schneider again sealed in the form of Lucien. When he transformed, Lucien could not remember anything about the events they had just experienced. Meanwhile, as Schneider left the palace, four rebel leaders were discussing their recent victory over a small kingdom called Judas. They were surprised to learn that the person who had defeated Osborne possessed a legendary magic called Venom. The four leaders decided to send someone named Kevin Dubu to test the powers of this witch who had defeated Osborne. Sometime later, a survivor of the kingdom of Judas arrived at the Metallic Kingdom to report to the king, Asparagus Metallicana, about his kingdom that had been destroyed and attacked by rebel forces. The soldier informed Asparagus that a small part of the rebel forces was heading to the Metallicana kingdom. Not long after, Soto arrived at the place with Yoko and also Lucien. Soto then informed Asparagus that the rebel forces had become active and had managed to destroy several other kingdoms. Not only that, but the rebel forces also began to activate the Black Clouds. This meant that the rebel forces were trying to resurrect Anthrasax, an ancient and powerful being. Meanwhile, on the other side of Metallicana, Kevin Dubo had arrived with a monster named Hydra, in search of Lucien. Upon hearing the news, the panicked ministers of the kingdom saw the need to resurrect Schneider. At first, Yoko refused, but Soto convinced her to do it. Yoko performed the ritual and Schneider was brought back to life. The ministers immediately ordered Schneider to help them in their fight against the rebel forces. Unexpectedly, Schneider casually refused their request. Instead, he told them that he wanted to rule the world. Hearing this, the soldiers tried to attack Schneider, but he quickly created a fiery magic that locked him together with Soto. Schneider intended to challenge Soto to a duel, releasing his magic power. But Yoko was able to easily stop him and scold him like a child. Schneider was determined to break free from Yoko's control. He unleashed a powerful lightning spell, aiming to strike down Soto. But Soto was protected by a formidable magic barrier that Schneider's attack couldn't penetrate. Realizing this, Schneider decided to take a different approach. He injured his own hand, knowing that deep within the palace lay a golem, sealed away by Soto 15 years ago. Determined to revive it, Schneider summoned the golem from its prison. Just as Schneider's plan was coming to fruition, Kevin and his fearsome Hydra arrived on the scene. A fierce battle ensued between the golem and the Hydra. It didn't take long for Schneider's golem to emerge victorious. Kevin was no match for Schneider's powerful magic and was easily defeated. Schneider then finished off Kevin with the same spell he used to defeat Osborne. With Kevin defeated, Schneider turned his attention back to Soto. But just as he was about to deliver the final blow, Yoko intervened, managing to turn Schneider back into Lucien at the last moment. Meanwhile, Gara, the leader of a rebel force, learns of Kevin's death at the hands of Schneider, whom he recognizes as the man who led the rebellion against the Metallicana kingdom 15 years ago. Gara and his ninja troops prepare to face the legendary wizard, now fighting for the enemy. Back in the Metallicana kingdom, Asparagus and his ministers are in a state of panic as dark clouds loom over the kingdom. Soto explains that this is a sign that the first seal guarding Anthrasax, one of the four seals holding the powerful being, has been broken. The resurrection of Anthrasax has begun, and Soto warns that this spells doom for the kingdom. One of the ministers brings up Kalsu, the head leader of the rebel forces and Schneider's greatest student, rumored to possess magic powers even stronger than Schneider. Meanwhile, Kalsu confers with Abigail, the man tasked with breaking the seals and summoning Anthrasax. They discuss their plans to target the next seal, guarded by the Metallicana kingdom. As the ministers of the Metallicana kingdom come to terms with the dire situation they find themselves in, they beg Yoko to resurrect Schneider to save them, but Yoko becomes angry, telling them that Lucien is not a tool to be used by them. She insists that Lucien is not something to be controlled. That night, as Yoko and Lucien sleep in their room, Gara and his men infiltrate the kingdom, easily dispatching the 3 guards on duty. Gara entered Yoko's room with the intention of questioning her about Schneider's whereabouts. However, as soon as he introduced himself, Yoko attacked him. Gara, being a skilled warrior, quickly overpowered her and arrested her. The commotion they made woke up Lucien, who was shocked to see Gara. But to everyone's surprise, Lucien's presence alone was enough to awaken Schneider's consciousness without the need for a kiss from Yoko. Yoko was confused by the sudden turn of events, but Schneider explained that her actions had weakened the seal that kept him trapped inside Lucien's body. He explained that the seal had been opened twice, making it easier for powerful magicians like himself to break through it when Lucien was asleep. Just as they were discussing this, Soto and his men broke into the room, leaving Gara and the others surrounded. Gara summoned a flying monster named Wyvern to help them escape, taking Yoko with him as they fled. Soto immediately reported Yoko's abduction to Asparagus, the leader of their group. The ministers advised Asparagus to send soldiers to rescue Yoko as soon as possible, as she was the only one who could summon Schneider. The minister's efforts to rescue Yoko were hindered by their lack of knowledge about the location of the rebels' headquarters. Only Schneider knew where it was, but he could not be resurrected without Yoko. Knowing this, Sheila, a member of the royal family, volunteered to take Yoko's place in order to resurrect Schneider. She explained that she had previously trained with Soto and knew that the requirement for Schneider's awakening was a kiss from a virgin girl. Asparagus, Sheila's father and the leader of the group, refused to let her participate in the ritual, citing the importance of a kiss as a symbol of marriage in their culture. A heated debate ensued between father and daughter until finally the ministers decided to remove Asparagus from the room. Sheila then performed the ritual and successfully awakened Schneider. The ministers begged Schneider to help rescue Yoko, but he arrogantly refused. Sheila, frustrated by his attitude, slapped him. Surprisingly, the slaps seemed to change Schneider's mind, and he finally agreed to show the way to the rebels' headquarters to Sheila and some soldiers of the AniKing kingdom. Meanwhile, Yoko was being held captive by Gara, who had chained her to a pond. Gara tells Yoko that he will release her if she tells him how to resurrect Schneider. Unbeknownst to them, Schneider had already arrived at the headquarters of the rebels. The ninja immediately surrounded him, but Schneider easily took them out with a single spell. As this was happening, Gara continued to provoke Yoko's jealousy by telling her that Schneider, being 400 years old, had been with more than 200 to 300 women in his life. To add insult to injury, Gara also reveals that one of Schneider's former lovers is currently alive, and she is also his own disciple. To Yoko's surprise, the woman turned out to be one of the 4 heavenly kings, the higher-ups of the rebellion. Unfortunately for Gara, his attempts to extract the information from Yoko were unsuccessful. In desperation, he summoned a slime to envelop her body and force her to reveal the method for summoning Schneider. Meanwhile, Schneider and the others had successfully infiltrated Gara's headquarters. They were confronted by a massive minotaur, but Schneider, being cunning, ordered the soldiers to engage the beast while he and Sheila continued to make their way upstairs to where Gara was holding Yoko. The soldiers obeyed Schneider's orders and engaged the minotaur, while Schneider carried Sheila and pushed on toward Gara's location. When Schneider and Sheila finally reached the top, they were immediately attacked by an eyeball monster named Suzuki. Schneider explained to Sheila that Suzuki must have been freed when the seal on Judas's kingdom was opened. Suzuki relentlessly attacked them both, but Schneider managed to dodge and counterattack. However, Schneider's magic was unable to penetrate Suzuki's magical defense. Suzuki then attacked again and managed to injure Schneider's arm while he was trying to protect Sheila. The injury enraged Schneider, causing him to unleash a powerful black magic spell called Sodom, which finally defeated Suzuki. The spell was so destructive that it completely destroyed the monster and the surrounding area. Schneider and Sheila finally arrived at a room, where Schneider informed her that he had expended a lot of energy using magic beforehand and that he only had 1 or 2 spells left to use against Gara. Knowing this, Sheila grabbed a sword to help Schneider in battle. But unexpectedly, the sword Sheila pulled out began to move on its own and slashed into Schneider's body. Schneider knew that the sword was poisoned and that it would weaken him. He then asked Sheila to suck the poison from his body, but she refused to do so. Suddenly, a fire demon named Valor emerged from the sword that Sheila had drawn earlier. Without hesitation, Schneider and Valor began to clash with their magical powers. To Schneider's surprise, Valor was able to wield the same fire magic that Schneider possessed. Valor quickly gained the upper hand as Schneider was still recovering from the poison of the sword. Despite being at a disadvantage, Schneider was able to protect himself and Sheila within a protective magic circle. Sheila then asked Schneider why he didn't fight fire magic with ice magic. Schneider replied that he couldn't use ice magic, as that was Kalsu's area of expertise. Realizing this, Valor intensified the heat of his fire and forced Schneider to abandon the protective magic circle in order to prevent Sheila from getting hurt. Meanwhile, the soldiers who had defeated the Minotaur made their way upstairs, only to be shocked by the lava flow that had resulted from Schneider's battle with Valor. Schneider, standing amidst the raging inferno, began chanting a spell. He then unleashed a fire magic called Exodus, which was even hotter than Valor's. With this powerful spell, Schneider pushed Valor's body through the room where Gara was located. In the end, Valor, who had been said to be invincible for 300 years, acknowledged Schneider's power and transformed back into a sword. Schneider took the sword and turned his attention to Gara, who had just entered the room. Gara could see that Schneider was running low on energy, especially considering the poison he had been exposed to. With pride, Gara told Schneider that although 15 years ago Schneider had been able to lead millions of troops and almost conquer the world, now Schneider's power had reached its limit, and he would not be able to defeat him. Gara then challenged Schneider to a duel, boasting that he would defeat his former mentor in 5 minutes. Without hesitation, Gara launched an attack on Schneider, managing to strike his body. However, Schneider was able to rise and a fierce sword fight between the two ensued. But since Schneider was not accustomed to using weapons in combat, he discarded his sword and prepared to cast venom magic. But before he could, Gara quickly moved in and slashed one of Schneider's arms. In a surprising turn of events, Schneider was able to counterattack and destroy one of Gara's arms. Despite having sustained equal levels of injuries, the two of them stood face to face and Gara attempted to weaken Schneider's resolve by revealing that he had previously defiled Yoko's body. Gara hoped that by doing this, Schneider would lose interest in Yoko and in the fight. However, Gara's efforts were in vain as Schneider became enraged and prepared to cast another legendary magic named Megadeath. Seeing this, Gara launched an attack, but it was easily held off by Schneider. Finally, Schneider's attack caused the entire place to shake and then completely destroyed it. After the dust had settled, the two former teachers and students spoke intimately. Schneider was able to reattach his severed arm and shortly after, Sheila came to restore Gara's pet dragon. Schneider then secretly protected Yoko, Sheila, and the dragon using protective magic before the building collapsed. Despite his defeat, Gara couldn't help but smile, as he realized that Schneider was no longer the cruel and merciless warrior he once knew. With a newfound respect for Schneider, Gara shared with him and his friends the dire news that the kingdom of Metallicana was also under attack by the 3rd unit of the rebel forces. As the group was discussing their next move, a surprising turn of events occurred. The small dragon named Lars, who had been quiet until now, suddenly approached Schneider and invited him to speak privately. Meanwhile, Kalsu, a powerful warlord, received a report of Gara's defeat and decided to side with Schneider. Believing that Schneider had somehow manipulated Gara's mind, Kalsu ordered the leader of the 3rd unit, as well as one of the 4 same heavenly kings, Arsha's Nay, to defeat Schneider. The kingdom of Metallicana was in the midst of a major battle, and Asparagus, the ruler of the kingdom, sent an envoy to invite the rebel forces to make peace. But Nay, consumed by ambition and jealousy, ordered her troops to kill the messenger. She then received an order from Kalsu to confront Schneider, and immediately returned to her tent to discuss Gara's rebellion. As it turned out, Nay was a former student and ex-girlfriend of Schneider, and she held a grudge against him for his past as a playboy who slept with many women. When Schneider attempted to reach out to her and remind her of their past, she struck him hard, ordering her subordinate, Ari, to hunt Schneider down and kill him. On the other hand, Schneider was in a heated argument with Lars, who was worried about him, but Schneider was indifferent to his friend's concerns and decided to leave. Lars, determined to understand Schneider's behavior, followed him. To Schneider's surprise, Lars had uncovered the truth about his past and knew about Nay's feelings for him. Schneider was upset by this revelation and threatened to finish Lars off if he continued to pry into his personal life. When the two of them walked, they stumbled upon a young girl who was being chased by a giant spider. Without hesitation, Schneider intervened to save her, and the girl thanked him profusely. She revealed that she was the daughter of a noble and invited Schneider and Lars to her castle. That evening, Schneider decided to stay at the castle and the girl went to her second room, making Schneider believe it would be easy to seduce her. However, to his surprise, the girl was actually Ari in disguise, and she captured Schneider using her spider. Ari then orders her spider to eat Schneider alive, but suddenly she was surprised because Schneider was already behind her. What was eaten by her spider turned out to be an illusion. Schneider, a notorious playboy, couldn't help but comment on Ari's beauty, causing her to blush in embarrassment. Ari, who had only known the harsh realities of war and had never been complimented before, found herself unable to resist Schneider's charms and gave in to his advances. The next morning, Schneider prepared to meet with Nay, but Ari warned him of the dangers ahead. She told him that in addition to her, there were 2 other powerful generals under Nay's command, and one of them had been bestowed with powerful magic by Nay as their leader. Despite this warning, Schneider remained unfazed and continued on his journey with confidence. Meanwhile, Nay learned of Ari's rebellion and became enraged, thinking that Schneider had taken advantage of her vulnerability. However, in reality, Schneider had not taken any advantage of Ari. Soon after, Schneider was confronted by another of Nay's generals, Kai, a fierce female warrior. She led an army of orcs to attack Schneider, but he foolishly asked Lars, who was also present, to decide who was more handsome between him and Kai. This insult enraged Kai and she led her orcs to attack Schneider. But Schneider fought fiercely and with the help of his illusion technique, he was able to defeat the orcs and engage in a one-on-one battle with Kai. Before the fight, Schneider asked Kai about the person responsible for turning the people around them to stone, but Kai refused to answer and instead attacked Schneider. Schneider again used his illusion technique to trick Kai, but she was also skilled and managed to move behind Schneider. The battle was intense and uncertain. Kai, frustrated with Schneider's arrogance, asked about Ari's whereabouts, as she had not returned to their headquarters. Schneider, with a smirk on his face, replied that Ari had betrayed them and had fallen in love with him. Enraged, Kai attacked Schneider again, but this time Schneider was ready. He pulled out Valor's sword, which he had taken from Gara's headquarters, and struck Kai with it. Schneider was surprised to learn that his opponent was a woman. Kai retaliated with a powerful spell that rendered Schneider unable to move and began to turn him into stone. But before Schneider could be fully petrified, he taunted Kai, calling her pathetic for dressing up as a man to look strong. Lars panicked at the sight of Schneider, who was slowly turning into stone. Schneider knew that the magic Kai was using was ancient magic that had made a contract with a god. However, due to the vast number of gods in the wizarding world, Schneider couldn't figure out which god Kai had contracted with and thus couldn't undo her spell. However, Schneider's arrogance had angered Kai, causing her to change her mind and finish Schneider off with fire magic. Just as Kai was about to deal the final blow, Ari arrived and protected the man she loved. She tried to reason with Kai, explaining that Schneider was different from Kalsu and Ney, and that he could even surpass them. But Kai refused to listen and Ari was forced to fight her. Unfortunately, Kai was much stronger than Ari. An angry Kai recited a spell and mentioned the name of her god, Ingwei. However, this proved to be a fatal mistake, as Schneider, now aware of the name of Kai's god, was able to break free from her stone magic. Seeing this, Kai attacked Schneider again, but her magic no longer had any effect on him. Schneider taunted Kai, saying that her god, Ingwei, was a lowly deity and a subordinate of the gods he had contracted with. He then proceeded to showcase the full extent of his god's power. Surprisingly, Kai still had a crystal that allowed her to summon a monster named Coke. Without hesitation, she ordered Coke to attack Schneider with a gas that could turn humans into stone. However, since the power of the gas came from the monster's natural abilities, not from a contract with a god, Schneider could be turned into stone if he was exposed to the gas. Schneider narrowly dodged the attack, but suddenly, the wind changed direction and blew toward Kai, causing her to panic and drop her crystal, destroying it. This caused Coke to turn on his own master. At the same time, Schneider unleashed his full magic power and destroyed the monster. After the battle, Schneider tended to Kai's injuries and successfully healed the poison in her body. Kai thanked Schneider and warned him of Ney's last general, who possessed the magic that made his body immortal. In the end, Schneider parted ways with the two women. At night, Schneider, who had been using too much of his magical power, suddenly found himself transformed into the form of Lucian. Luckily, he stumbled upon Yoko, who was in the forest with a group of soldiers from the kingdom of Metallicana. As they sat around a bonfire, they realized that Lucian was carrying a small dragon named Lars. The soldiers informed Yoko that the name was the same as that of the prince and Sheila's elder brother, who had fought against Schneider in the past. Suddenly, Lars unleashed a forbidden spell, transforming himself into a dragon knight. However, there was still uncertainty surrounding his fate, as his body had never been found and it was as if he had simply disappeared. Meanwhile, Ney's last general, Diamond, received reports of the defeat of two of his fellow generals, Ari and Kai, at the hands of Schneider. Determined not to suffer the same fate, Diamond confidently declared that he was different from his fallen comrades. The source of Diamond's power was his immortal body, which he obtained by sucking the blood of virgins. Back with Yoko and the soldiers, they suddenly sensed an evil aura in the air, causing them to rush to investigate. To their surprise, the source of the aura was a werewolf, sent by Diamond to find and capture virgins for him to feed on. At that moment, Lucian's body was suddenly overtaken by Schneider's consciousness, who then stepped forward to protect Yoko from the werewolf. The werewolf, not realizing he was facing Schneider, attacked Lucian relentlessly. But in a sudden moment, Lucian struck the werewolf's stomach and unleashed his venom magic. Despite the fact that Schneider's consciousness was within Lucian's body, his venom magic did not kill the werewolf, but it was enough to scare him. Trembling, the werewolf admitted that he was working for Diamond, and revealed that Diamond was searching for pure virgin blood to increase his magic power, in order to defeat Kalsu and Nai, the two powerful gods who stood in his way. Despite being told everything by the werewolf, Schneider didn't hesitate to kill him. Yoko, who was beside him, was shocked by Schneider's sudden act of violence. Unbeknownst to them, Diamond had been watching them all along. Diamond had learned of Lucian's true identity, and knew that Schneider's soul was sealed within his body. He also remembered the past of Schneider, who 15 years ago had led an army and fought against the Four Kingdoms. Diamond knew that Schneider was incredibly powerful, and even admitted that he was no match for Schneider. However, at this moment, Schneider was sealed in Lucien's body and hadn't fully awakened, giving Diamond a chance to defeat him. Without wasting any time, Diamond and his men immediately ambush Yoko and the others. Unfortunately for Yoko and her companions, Lucien's consciousness returns to his body, allowing Diamond and his men to capture them easily. Along with Yoko's group, Ari and Kai are also taken captive by Diamond. However, to Diamond's surprise, Kai and Ari are able to escape. They are caught trying to defeat Diamond, and this enrages him. He is angry with his men for being deceived by Kai and Ari and finishes off one of his men as a result. Kai and Ari then attack Diamond, but he possesses an eternal body that allows him to quickly regenerate any injuries. Diamond captures Kai and bites her, offering her the chance to become stronger in order to defeat Nei and Kalsu. Hearing Ari's words, Diamond becomes angry and releases Kai. Kai then informs Ari that Schneider had been captured. Ari and Kai are unaware that Schneider can transform into Lucien. Arrogantly, Diamond declares that he could easily defeat Schneider at this moment. However, to everyone's surprise, Lucien's body suddenly emits a bright light, and Schneider's consciousness finally returns. Meanwhile, in the Metallic Kingdom, Gara and his ninjas are helping the warriors of the kingdom fight against rebel forces, at the request of Schneider. Back at Diamond's palace, it becomes evident that Schneider and Lucien's consciousness are locked in a battle for control of Lucien's body. Schneider is determined to rise to power, while Lucien's state is still awake. Yoko observes Diamond targeting Ari and kicks her, inciting Diamond's wrath and leading to retaliation that results in Yoko being injured. Schneider, who witnesses Yoko's injury, transforms without Yoko's kiss and breaks free from confinement. In a fit of anger, Schneider scolds Diamond for daring to harm the future mother of his children. Schneider unleashes a lightning spell that strikes Diamond and his men, but Diamond's eternal body is immune to Schneider's magic. Diamond retaliates with an eye shot that destroys Schneider's body. Believing he has won, Diamond displays arrogance, but Schneider surprises him by reappearing behind him, having used illusion magic. Diamond, determined not to miss again, shoots in all directions without regard for his own men. However, Schneider effortlessly absorbs Diamond's magic and returns it, causing the attack to miss and destroy the wall. Knowing it was morning, Schneider takes advantage of Diamond's fear of sunlight, and watches as he burns to ashes. Yoko and the others believe Schneider has defeated Diamond, but the immortal vampire transforms into a bat and taunts Schneider, claiming that he will never find his real body. Schneider retaliates by defeating Diamond and ripping off his wings, then casting a spell. Schneider discovers that the bat's body is connected to Diamond's hidden body, and decides to use the magic of the blue nails to control him. He warns Diamond that any further misbehavior will result in him being turned into a frog. He allows Diamond to live as a bat in fear of his power. Meanwhile, Gara continues to defend Metallic Kingdom, unaware that the other three heavenly kings are observing his actions through a crystal ball. Abigail warns that Nei, who has been with Schneider since childhood, may betray them as Gara has. To prepare for this possibility, Abigail casts the blue nail magic on Nei and gives her the nails. Nei accepts the magic and leaves, leaving Kalsu and Abigail behind. After Nei leaves, Kalsu and Abigail discuss Schneider's transformation. Kalsu reveals that Schneider was once a ruthless monster who wouldn't think twice about killing his own men, but now he's leading Gara and the three Nei generals. Abigail agrees, observing that today's Schneider seems like a completely different person compared to 15 years ago. As a result, Abigail emphasizes that Schneider poses the greatest danger to their objectives. They then head to the location where the anthrax plant is stored. Abigail and Kalsu devise a plan to assemble their forces and break the three seals in the final kingdoms, while the rebel forces face Schneider. Meanwhile, Schneider and Yoko bid farewell to Ari, who must escort Kai to a temple for medical treatment after being bitten by Diamond. Yoko and Schneider return to the Metallic Kingdom. In the Metallic Kingdom, Gara continues his battle against the rebel forces. Suddenly, Nei shows up and challenges Gara. The two Schneider disciples quickly engage in combat, causing explosive clashes. Gara notes that Nei's lightning sword, Raijin, is as powerful as Schneider's fire sword. Despite this, Gara remains unfazed and attacks Nei with his ninja weapons, finally managing to wound Nei. However, Nei also possesses the ability to use illusions and strikes Gara's body. Believing she had defeated Gara, Nei is surprised to find him unharmed. Gara reveals that he can duplicate himself, and what Nei attacked was only one of his fake bodies. He removes his armor to confront Nei once more. Gara's 7 duplicates all attack Nei at once, even as his fake bodies slowly dissipate. Despite using all of her skills, Nei, being the strongest swordsman, successfully defends against Gara's assault, even after a massive explosion from the force of their collision. However, Gara's attack breaks Nei's Raijin's sword, causing Gara to become overconfident. He declares that Nei holds importance to Schneider, and thus he will not kill her. Gara's victory is celebrated by the ninja army and the citizens of the Metalcana kingdom. Nei refused to surrender, even with a broken sword. She swung at Gara once more, and this time, her strike connected with his stomach. As she prepared to deliver the final blow, a magic spell interrupted her. It was Schneider, arriving with Yoko in tow. Nei's envy surged as she remembered the past when Schneider would always play with the girls while she waited eagerly for his return. Suddenly, Schneider was standing behind Nei and whispered, "Do you love me?" His words caught Nei off guard, causing her to blush with embarrassment. Schneider continued to tease her, declaring that of all the women he had known in the last 100 years, she was the one he loved the most. Nei's heart swelled with affection, but then she remembered Abigail's warning that her exposure to blue nail magic forbade her from being with Schneider. As Nei's love for Schneider grew, her nail color slowly changed to purple. If it turned red, her body would be destroyed and she would transform into a frog. To prevent this outcome, Nei reluctantly left, promising Schneider that she would return with an army. That evening, as Gara was being treated, Schneider was warned by him. Gara noted that Nei was much stronger than she was 15 years prior and advised Schneider not to be careless, as Nei could easily have taken his life. The following day, life in the Metalcana kingdom resumed as usual. Yoko was distributing food to soldiers who were repairing the palace walls damaged during the battle between Schneider and Nei. Meanwhile, Soto and Sheila visited Baba, an old fortune teller, to inquire about Schneider's seal. Soto informed Baba that the seal had been unlocked 3 times by kisses from Yoko and Sheila. Furthermore, Schneider had twice managed to gain control of Lucien's consciousness without the aid of virgin kisses, and most remarkably, he had the ability to transform in a battle against Diamond. Knowing this, Baba then declared that Schneider had grown stronger than he was 15 years prior, and could now remove the seal imposed by Soto and Sheila with his own willpower. Baba explained that the artificial seal originated from the goddess of love, Inomata, and only confined evil individuals. However, if a sealed individual was good and in love, they could release the seal themselves. This meant that Schneider, once possessing a demonic nature, was starting to feel love for someone. Suddenly, Baba foresaw the future through her crystal ball, envisioning Schneider's body split open with his heart taken away by someone. Meanwhile, Yoko was tending to Gara, who told her that Schneider must be defeated by Nei. Gara explained that the reason for Schneider's defeat was due to his transformation into a kind and benevolent person, leaving behind his cruel nature. Upon learning of Baba's prophecy, Sheila quickly approached Schneider to warn him, but he was dismissive of the prophecy. Unbeknownst to them, Yoko was eavesdropping on their conversation. Baba and Soto were jolted when Baba's crystal ball suddenly released a bolt of lightning. Baba explained that it signaled Nei's arrival. Her prediction was soon confirmed as Nei stormed the palace, unleashing her powerful Megadeath magic and causing further destruction. Schneider was able to save Sheila, Yoko, and Lars just in time. The group was shocked to see Nei's mastery of Megadeath's magic. With a determined look, Schneider stepped forward to face Nei as she raced towards him, mounted on her flying beast. Nei didn't hesitate and launched an attack on Schneider. In response, Schneider utilized a spell to take the battle to the air. But the repaired sword of Nei had a surprise in store. It unleashed an ancient magic that formed an energy sphere, capable of absorbing magic energy. Nei informed Schneider of this, and as a result, Schneider's magic energy was absorbed, causing him to fall from the sky as he was unable to use magic anymore. Meanwhile, Gara came to understand that Nei was determined to fight without relying on magic, instead relying solely on her Raijin's sword. Nei continued to strike with her sword, but Schneider managed to deflect her attacks with his magic. However, his magic was quickly absorbed by Nei's energy sphere. Schneider, now defenseless, was cornered by Nei. Suddenly Ifrit, the red demon, appeared and told Nei that he wouldn't allow her to harm his master, Schneider. Ifrit transformed into a fire sword, which Schneider could use to fight Nei's Raijin's sword. Schneider attacked Nei, using Ifrit as his weapon, and ultimately defeated the flying monster she was riding on. The two clashed with legendary swords in hand. Observing the fight, the ninja asked Gara which sword was stronger, the fire sword or the lightning sword. Gara replied that the fire sword was indeed stronger, but the wielder's skill and ability also played a crucial role in determining the outcome of the battle. Currently, Nei had the advantage as she was the most skilled swordsman, whereas Schneider was unable to use magic, putting him at a significant disadvantage. Schneider and Nei braced themselves for the final blow, drawing all their power into one decisive strike. The onlookers held their breath as the two clashed in a violent exchange of swordplay. Ney gained the upper hand, pushing Schneider to the brink of defeat. But then, Ifrit, Schneider's fire sword, spoke up. Ifrit declared that the world needed Schneider's strength, and he wouldn't let Schneider lose. To everyone's surprise, Ifrit moved of its own accord and engaged in battle with Ney's Raijin sword. Ifrit was even willing to sacrifice himself by diving into the lightning sphere, sword in hand, to destroy it. Despite Ifrit's sacrifice, Ney pressed her attack on Schneider, striking him with a blow to the head. As Schneider lay defeated, he remembered Ifrit's sacrifice and a light began to radiate from his body. This was because Ifrit had successfully destroyed the energy sphere, freeing Schneider's magic. Schneider and Ney resumed their battle, this time with both wielding magic. They took to the air, launching their first strikes. Schneider then unleashed the Exodus magic that once controlled Ifrit. To everyone's surprise, Ney was able to use the same magic. However, as the two were about to clash, Schneider remembered his past with Ney, causing a massive explosion as the two magics collided. After the explosion, Schneider, the legendary wizard, was thought to have fallen in battle after a massive explosion. But to everyone's surprise, he rose from the ashes, unscathed. Despite being hit with Ney's full-force magic, Schneider stood tall and arrogant as ever. Ney, however, was not fooled. She could sense the wizard's injury, the result of using the powerful Exodus spell. Undeterred, Ney prepared to strike again, but Schneider's words stopped her in her tracks. With a single declaration of love, Schneider shook Ney to the core. Despite the blush on her cheeks, Ney refused to be swayed by Schneider's declaration of love. She summoned Gilbert, her thunder magic spirit, and the two of them took to the skies. Schneider followed suit, summoning his own fire magic spirit. The two elemental forces clashed, resulting in a fierce battle in the sky. The wizards exchanged spells, determined to come out on top. As the intense battle raged on, Ney shared her aspirations for a new kingdom, free from discrimination and war. Schneider, however, was pessimistic, believing that hatred and conflict were inherent to human nature. Ney, fueled by her personal experiences of discrimination as an elf, passionately argued that a new world was necessary for her and others like her to live peacefully. Hearing this, Schneider then took Ney in his arms, declaring that she did not need to create a new world as he himself would be her world of peace. His words nearly made Ney understand, but at the same time, her nails started to turn a dangerous shade of red. Meanwhile, Abigail watched the fight between Schneider and Ney through a crystal ball. With an evil smirk on his face, he revealed the secret to breaking Ney's blue nail magic, killing Schneider and tearing out his heart. Back in the battle, Ney ultimately chose to resume fighting Schneider and managed to bring him down. Though she loved Schneider deeply in her heart, this struggle caused her nails to turn red and caused her lightning spirit to spin out of control, wreaking havoc in all directions. Ney was aware that the end was near, and so she challenged Schneider to a final showdown. The two warriors unleashed all their remaining power, exchanging intense blows in a last, decisive battle. They cast powerful spells of destruction, resulting in a massive explosion that rocked the battlefield. Despite Ney's valiant efforts, Schneider's magic proved to be too strong. Ney was pushed to the brink of death until Schneider was interrupted by the sudden appearance of Lucien. Lucien informed Schneider that Ney had been poisoned with blue nail magic, revealing that it was the work of Abigail. This revelation made Schneider rage with anger, and he immediately ceased his attack. The climax of the anime saw Schneider approaching Ney, with a plan to save her life. In a stunning display of selflessness, Schneider willingly gave up his own heart, freeing Ney from the curse of the blue nail. The moral of the anime is that even those who have a troubled past and a negative reputation, like Schneider, have the capacity to change and become a better person.